All right. So this says brand new characters and storylines keep the franchise alive. The Acolyte is the biggest Star Wars entry point reset since The Mandalorian. And they wrote here, opinion. People have shared other Mandalorian things, so let's see here. What do we got? Anakin really was born by the will of the Force to be the chosen one. The Acolyte just debunked one hugely popular Anakin Skywalker origin theory. What else? The Acolyte suggests lightsaber colors really aren't that important. Don't care. Oh, Daisy Ridley confirms new Star Wars movie isn't part of a trilogy for now. Interesting. Anything else here? That's a video clip. What is this? Acolyte starred showrunner tease a thrilling fight scene in episode 5. The Acolyte's opening repeats Obi-Wan's oldest lie. The galaxy isn't at peace. Yeah. The lies. Okay. The Acolyte. Let's get into the Acolyte. I'm going spoilers on this one. I'm going to break my own rule. Figure Fever in the house. Good to see you. I'm going to break my own rule. And has it been 48 hours? Comes out Tuesdays, Wednesday? Yeah, it's been 48 hours. All right. That's not really breaking that rule, but we're going to talk spoilers about episode 3 of The Acolyte, which I think is very necessary for talking about the show as a whole. Now, I feel like the fandom is in an interesting place with this show. And I'm kind of starting to wonder if this was intentional by Disney. I'm really starting to wonder that. Now, I'm going to use this word because I can't think of another word on how to describe what's happening. Although I hate this word, I don't like to use the word, and I feel like the word has been warped into a negative when technically it should be a positive. And that could come from anybody. The reasons why it warped or was manipulated. I can't tell if this show is like extremely woke on purpose or on purpose, but like as a gag or not as a gag. I can't tell. I cannot tell. Now, to parallel this, Star Trek Discovery very much checks that box in a lot of ways. Sometimes I think to its own detriment. And it's they're not doing it as a gag. Now, I understand the conversation. Star Trek's always been woke, if you want to label it that. Again, I don't like using that word because I am all about representation. So let's just get that part addressed. Why does my audio keep cutting? Sorry. Let me know if the audio is cutting for you guys as you're listening to. Because in my headphones, it like starts to cut. But Star Trek Discovery is like, to me, like, sometimes it's like too much. I'm like, all right, chill out. Like, I get it. I'm with you. Anything goes. Let's just do it. Just get me the story. In this show, it got to the point in episode 3 where I felt like they were beating me over the head with it. And in an unnecessary, at an unnecessary level of it. Now, I'm going to address one part. And this part seems to be pissing people off. And this is where I will defend Star Wars. This is the only part in this entire conversation where I'm going to defend Star Wars. People are mad that the main characters right, are these two sisters, Osha and whatever the other one's name is, which I don't even know if they're two different actresses or not. At least the kid versions. I think the adults are the same person, but the kid versions. So we have another set of twins. That already made me facepalm. But in episode 3, they establish that the twins were born through the Force. Actually, where was that picture? Tied to this. So, in episode 3, they establish that you have a bunch of witches, similar to the Night Sisters on Dathomir. So you have a bunch of sisters, and they establish that this woman here, who is the mother of the witches, again, similar to like Mother Towson with the Night Sisters, that she used the Force to impregnate another Night Sister or witch, and that witch gave birth to the twins in the show. Once again, this is the only part where I will defend this show. Legacy of Nerd in the house. Good to see you. The part that's crazy to me here is Dre in the house. Good to see you. All right, I'm going to stop saying hi to people until I get through this thought. The crazy part to me here is, one, we've seen this before with this example, Anakin born through the Force. So we've seen somebody have the ability to be born in the Force. I think this diminishes the Anakin thing by them being like, oh, anybody could do it. Personally, that's a side conversation. But we've seen this before. So her having the other woman impregnated, I don't think is that big of a deal, because we've already seen this before by Anakin's mom being Shmi, right? Was that her name? We've her being impregnated by the Force. So that to me is not out of pocket. It's out of pocket that they're doing it, but not that it could be done. 2, we have the established Night Sisters already on Dathomir. So I know they don't really say it, but how the hell do we think they're reproducing? Like, did we assume one of two things? One, were they taking like Darth Maul's people, using them as like sex slaves for snoo, and that's how they were reproducing? Or were they using the Force? It was like one of the two. One of the two things were happening. So the show, to me, just said it out loud that when you have these women witch groups, like the Witches of Dathomir, or the Night Sisters of Dathomir, and now this group, they just said out loud that they have to use the Force to reproduce. That's all they really did. So that part, I'm not really sure why people are upset outside of them just saying it. That part's confusing to me. Now, I'm not trying to bash anybody. So people can do what they do with the information. People can say what they want to say, and all of that stuff. But I don't think in that episode, I don't see how that was the most out of pocket thing they did. Personally, I think the twins angle is done. I don't know why we're doing that again. I think there's shitty things with the way the Jedi are portrayed in this episode. I know the Jedi are kind of pieces of shit because they do take kids to train them. But, I think this episode, if I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, because we haven't finished it, I feel like this episode was like one person's perspective of what happened. Maybe. But it's a messy episode. it's a messy episode. The reason the Jedi are there is messy. Them wanting to take the twins is messy. The story of the twins is messy. But I think that in there was potential, right? So immediately as the episode's playing out, I'm thinking of The Good Son. If you guys remember that movie, Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin. I'm thinking of Kylo Ren, right? Like, you have somebody who turns on their family, slaughters everybody. And The Good Son doesn't happen, but he's a murderer, right? Like, there's one sibling that's evil. So we've seen that before. As far as the twins go, we already have the Luke and Leia thing pretty established. We also had the twin thing with the Old Republic video game. That awesome cutscene that should have been a movie. So why we have to go back to the well on the twin thing, I don't see it. I don't understand it. The way that the families were dead at the end, or the witches were dead at the end, stupid. Again, I think it's a perspective, so I'm not really sure, like, if that, what the idea is there. Overall, I think it's one of the worst Star Wars shows out there. I don't think it's worse than Boba Fett. I think Boba Fett's still probably the worst show. I think Mando season 3 is still pretty bad, but I think this show has to be completed for me to rank it. And at the same time, I think we're comparing shit to shit. Boba was bad. Mando season 3 was bad. Andor was bad. My audio again keeps cutting out. Ahsoka was bad. So I think we're just splitting hairs on this one, to be honest. And you guys can let me know if you agree or disagree on that one. Personal opinion. Let's go up to the comments real quick. The Jedi only take the kids if they want to be trained. So that's another thing, right? So people are complaining, oh, they're not supposed to take kids that old. There's the rules about all that stuff. And then one of the things I think Eckhart's Ladder said, which I was thinking that when I was watching the episode, was, oh, maybe the events of this show, they're going to say, influence the Jedi's rules going forward. Don't take kids past a certain age. Don't take twins. I don't know. Like, that kind of stuff. Well, that was one of the things I was thinking of. Steve in the house. Good to see you. Dre says, it seems like everyone is spewing a lot of hate speech about the series, which is not healthy and toxic to the community. So, I agree and disagree, right? Anybody who's ridiculing the show, I agree with the ridicules of the show as a whole, right? I just think that the witches birthing amongst themselves is the least egregious thing they did. Now, it was annoying as hell that they kept emphasizing it. Like, I was just like, all right, I get it. Move on. That was annoying as shit. I was just like, all right, I'm over it. I get it. I understand. You said it. But it's still not, to me, the most egregious thing of that episode. Oh, by the way, I feel like I missed in the hellos. Discovery's done now. I liked it for the most part. I liked not so much the first season, like the 2 after that. The last 2 seasons, I think, have been very weak. I still support the show because I think overall, like, Star Trek's doing the best of any. Between the two, Star Trek and Star Wars, I think Star Trek is the superior franchise at the moment. But this season of Discovery has been terrible. Aaron Waller says, I think everyone was mostly up in arms about the diminishing of Anakin's story of the Chosen One by giving him the unique no father born of the Force to another set of characters. I kind of disagree with that. I don't think people were mad about that as much as they were mad about the lesbian relationship of we're having kids amongst ourselves. Now, the reason I say that is if people were mad about the diminishing, they probably don't know enough about the lore to know, and this is where I wish Jenna Kenobi was here. They may not know enough about the lore to note and acknowledge that whole theory of Plagueis or Sidious, like almost forcing the birth of Anakin, right? I think there's a story where like they actually do Sith alchemy to have somebody born. And then I think there's also a story of them being so powerful, or Sidious being so powerful, that because there's a rule of two amongst the Force as well, that they were so powerful and so evil in the dark side that the Force had to create a light side to counter that. But that light side ended up being corrupted. Then the birth of the twins came out to counteract that part, right? So there's lore there, I think, to back up anybody who's like mad about Anakin being diminished, to be like, no, technically we've seen somebody born through the Force, forcefully, no pun intended, not just immaculate conception. So I think they're more mad about the lesbian part of it than they are the Anakin tie to it. Everybody's saying hi to Steve. Aaron Waller says the show's mostly disappointing in that they had every chance to do something different, yet they smashed all the same things we've seen from the other entries together. Agreed. And I think that's what we all wanted, was something different. Literally, the only thing different we got so far is that a knife will kill a Jedi. A knife to the chest, but lightsaber blades do not. I agree the writing needs work. Acting and the CGI as well need help, but no need to use a show as a way to spew hate towards LGBT groups. Agreed. Like I said, I don't see how the concept of that is enough to be mad. But I agree they beat you over the head with it in episode 3. Personal opinion. Your audio is fine, by the way. I can hear you fine. Great. Thank you. This show sounds like it was written by AI. Hopefully not too much hate if actual writers. That's a fact. Much like monks in Chinese monasteries did to teach Kung Fu in the ancient times. The Kung Fu aspect of the show, I'm actually fine with, because I like the fact that this is like different. The Jedi are different versus what we are normally used to. But I wish the show was much earlier than 100 years. Because to me, the training, there's so many people who are still involved in the Jedi Council and in the Jedi from this show to the fall of the Jedi, or Fall of the Republic, or whatever. There's so many consistent players here for me to think, oh, they went from just like, we're learning Kung Fu to we're just straight up lightsabers on anybody. Doesn't matter. Like the 100 years is too close. If this was like a 500 year earlier thing, then I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But now I'm just like, it's too close in time to be like, oh, they've made drastic changes. Like, oh, we don't take lightsabers out unless we're going to kill. We use Kung Fu versus straight up Force, whatever. Legacy says, I agree that you can criticize the show, but people being toxic for social reasons is ridiculous. Yeah. I agree. And, maybe it's a perfect storm too, right? Like, people are already triggered by it being Pride Month, which, again, I don't understand why people get mad about this. I remember, I'll get political for a second. I remember before, not the last election, but the election before that, there was a huge libertarian push. Even I was waving the flag. And the concept was, you just do you, as long as you don't impede on me. Like, I think there was even some like Republican meme of like, or libertarian meme that was like, I support my gay friends' right to smoke weed and buy guns. You know, just you do your thing in your house, I do my thing in my house. And I feel like we're losing that. And I feel like we're going backwards. Again, something I like about Star Trek traditionally is it pushes the boundaries of the norm, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. Star Wars, I think, especially this show, is beating you over the head with it. And I think the Star Trek Discovery is beating you over the head with it. And people are getting mad about you getting beat over the head with it versus it just being played out as just normal. I don't know if I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I think if they stay true to the movies, then I think it's okay. But a long time before episode 1, the Jedi were pricks and maybe they changed. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were pricks even in the prequel movies. But in episode 3, the reason I think this might be somebody's perception is they essentially were doing a wellness check on these kids. And I'm like, did you not do wellness checks on any other witches when they were born? Like, how is this a thing? Like, why is this a thing now? And also, the girl wanting to kill the Jedi makes me feel like something else happened that we just haven't seen yet. My thought. Tied to that, I lost my thought. We haven't seen it yet. They cannot do another bad guy turns good thing. We can't have that on this show. Just let her be bad. If anything, the two of them fight. One kills the other one. They both die. I don't know, and I don't care. But what I do care about, do not have one of them turn good at the end, or the evil one turn good. Strange New Worlds is on the level of Next Generation, in my opinion. Yeah, Strange New Worlds is great. I tell everybody to watch that show. Anybody who's like, oh, I used to watch Star Trek, or I'm not sure about Star Trek, Strange New Worlds is the show. Plagueis was tampering with life and resurrection. There's a huge belief you can see why the Anakin theory carries weight. Yeah, for sure. And to me, it is annoying that they're showing somebody else could do it, because that also diminishes Plagueis and Sidious. But they are trying to say here that there's more to the Force than just the Jedi and the Sith. Like, it's the same power source. Everybody uses it differently, is the message you're trying to say. I just think it diminishes things. Everybody's saying hi. Legacy said, I thought it was canon that Palpatine influenced Anakin's birth, but lost track of where the birth was happening. Same. But I couldn't remember if it was that part, Plagueis being a factor in that, or them two doing so much like sorcery, the Force was forced, no pun intended, to birth Anakin. I can't remember which of the three is officially canon. That's why somebody needs to call Kenobi on his vacation and get him to chime in here. Millennium says, fan theory here, the fires that O is seeing in May, trying to bust out of the mindscape because, the sisters are controlling May. All the sisters are not dead. It was an illusion. Jedi saw their own illusion. Interesting. I could see that. Dre says technically the MMORPG that Star Wars had, that was like 1,000 years before Star Wars, we grew up on. It's technically a Star Wars that had the the online multiplayer game. Did they have that in there? It is being beat over the head or trying to help spread awareness I mean, using the medium to help spread awareness is not bad, but yes, I agree, beating you over the head at times is not helping. Yeah. And that's all I'm saying. The message being out there is fine. It's the delivery is what needs work. And what I think is happening on the show is the creator, whatever her name is so about being woke that she's doing more damage than helping. Like, for example, there's one white guy in this episode? I think just one. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, you have a mixture of people, but like, it's a little on the nose that we only got one. Have more of a mixture of people, right? Star Trek Discovery, actually, same thing. You look on the bridge, I think there's only one white guy. It's just weird. I'm not saying you need to meet a quota on anybody, but you need to like mix it up. And if you don't mix it up, it looks weird either direction. Either the Friends direction where there's like no black people in New York, which that's weird, or this episode, but there's only one white guy, the Padawan, and that's weird. I only want to know what's up with the Dark Side Ultron, who we haven't seen since the end of episode 1. Fan theory is... Oh, I'll check Facebook. Fan theory is... I don't know if you guys want me to like say something if it ends up being true. But fan theory is that it's the guy, it's the Asian dude from episode 2. That's the thought process. And I'd be fine with that theory.